Hey, so I actually hooked up with Hassan, who owns V1tech.com, and we decided to make a podcast. Basically, we just talk about a bunch of random modding related stuff, like what it's like to own a modding business, for example, and if you're into PC modding, I think it is a pretty interesting conversation. What I need you guys to do is, well, first of all, this is the very first podcast that I've ever done, and I'm pretty sure it's the very first one that he's ever done, so just keep that in mind when you listen to it. And tell me whether or not you enjoyed this video, and if you did, I can certainly ask other people if they want to talk to me on camera. Anyway, there are links in the description to all of my social media accounts, as well as V1Tech's social media accounts and their website, obviously. So, enjoy! Hey, I'm Dietec, and I have been modding computers for just about 1 year exactly at this point, and I have my guest here.
Hi, my name is Hassan. I run V1tech, and I've been modding for quite a while.
Yeah, man. So you are a professional modder, right? You own a business, and you've been doing this for how long?
The business started in 2014. I've been modding for probably since 2011.
So a long time, what, 6 years?
Yeah.
How did you start out becoming, like, how did you get interested in being a modder?
I think the early days I was just trying, my first computer build was like a CM690, didn't have a window in it or anything like that, and I was just interested in building computers and tech and PC gaming, and then I just enjoyed the process of building it so much that I wanted to do more, and just looking online I've seen tons of mods and cool computers. I want to make my computer a little bit more unique, a little bit, cooler. So I looked up tutorials on like how to cut windows and like MNPC tech and how to paint your computer case. And I think my first tool was a $35 Black & Decker Dremel that I got from Home Depot.
Yeah, dude, Dremel's the most important tool. I think that's the first one I got as well.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah. Other than like spray paint cans, of course.
Yeah. $4 spray paint cans for the win.
Yeah, actually, there's like really high quality spray paint that you can get out there that's not very much more expensive than the cheap like Home Depot stuff. I should definitely get into that.
Yeah, I've always just used the Rust-Oleum 2-in-1. It works for paints and plastics, and it's also got the primer built in.
Yep.
So for like really quick jobs, 2 or 3 coats of that in about 30 minutes, you have a pretty good, nice colored finish on any product.
Yeah, I've never used anything other than the Rust-Oleum 2-in-1. Well, I use the automotive enamel first, but that doesn't come out with as nice of a finish, I don't think.
Yeah, and I like how they have all kinds of finishes like gloss, semi-gloss, and matte finishes.
Dude, I'm all about the matte.
Yeah.
I really hate gloss. I don't know why. But yeah, so, alright, so you've been a PC modding business. What do you think you would have done differently if you could go back and start your business right now?
I probably would have documented more, kind of like you are right now. You have a whole year of YouTube videos documenting your history and your process. I envy that a little bit. I've got some Instagram photos, but in terms of modding, I did pretty well. I mean, I don't take back anything. And
what was your first mod? Is that windowless thing you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, that CM690. Actually, I ended up butchering that, destroying the side panel and giving up. And then I went out and I got a CM690, not a CM690, a Scout, Cooler Master Scout. So it was like one of their first cases with the window in it. It was smoked, so I didn't like that very much. And I was able to remove that and put a transparent plexi.
So you didn't get discouraged when you butchered the first case? Yeah,
it was a first time error. I did go back to trying to make windows and side panels. I think I did one for a Corsair case. It was a white one with mesh all the way up and down the front and top, but didn't have a side panel. And I ended up doing that for a friend, and that came out good. But for my own first mod, it was just that transparent clear side panel for the CM6 or for the Scout 2 or the Scout 1, and then I put those anti-kink coils.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw that on your Instagram actually. If you scroll down enough, it's one of your first pictures.
That'll at least make me stand out a little bit.
Yeah, it looks kind of cool. I've never seen that before actually. It's probably an old mod, huh?
They used to be super popular, not anymore.
Yeah. I guess it doesn't really matter anymore. A lot of the coolers nowadays don't really kink.
Right. even then, I feel like it was just more for aesthetics than anything else.
Yeah.
But it's gone out of style.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the older mods, like if you go back on some of the forums and look back a couple of years, they look kind of bad. Although, like, I don't want to say that because like art is like in the eye of the beholder or whatever. But
yeah, it's definitely different. Like when I was getting into it, one of the big things was like those giant transparent, like what was the company? I forget what the company was, but it was just like these giant clear cases with cold cathodes in them. And
but like completely clear, like all around.
Yeah, completely transparent.
That's kind of cool.
And they had fans that would actually they had LED lighting, but you could program it in the computer to say certain text, and it would spin around the fan in certain text.
Wow.
And then UV cathodes and like UV fluorescent colored sleeving on SATA cables, and it was like a cool thing to twist up your SATA cables to make them shorter, and it give it like a spiral effect inside the computer. It was really retro and crazy, kind of techno themed.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
Now it's a lot cleaner, simpler lines, more elegant, more minimalistic, I think.
I like the minimalistic a lot more. Yeah, the like crazy designs where everything is just like, I don't know, when you have everything clear and you can see all of your wires and everything, it's just kind of like messy, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
There are a couple of modders out there that do like, some of the cases have side panel windows on the cable management side that are clear, and some people do some crazy stuff on that side. I can't even imagine. That would take so much time. Yeah,
it is a lot of extra time. I feel like it's 80% of the mod is probably not that side, but if you can put that extra 20, it gives you an edge in terms of the quality of the PC build.
Competitions and stuff.
Yeah,
people are impressed. I've never
those Reddit points. I don't know.
So we were talking a couple days ago, and you said you were getting into competitions before you had V1tech, right? So tell me a bit about that.
Actually, so I started V1tech when I was in high school. I created that logo with a buddy, and it was for our computer repair service. That's how I made money in high school. I would fix people's laptops, remove viruses. I ended up, kept at that. I learned Cisco certifications, and I was going to go into virtual systems and all that kind of stuff.
That's kind of where I'm heading right now in my career.
Yeah, and that would have been a great path, but I just kind of stumbled into creating modding as part of the business because I took that Scout 1 to the QuakeCon in 2013. I think it was the first time I had water cooled. I saved up a bunch of money, and I wanted to do it right. So it was actually, fully rigid tube, just like your first mod, rigid tubing straight away for water cooling.
Gotta go hard.
I completely stripped the fans and painted them, put the stickers back on. Sleeving wasn't really that common to find it off the shelf, so I had to do some creativeness there. And it was 2 graphics card water cooled, even the RAM. It was just for looks, and I had all the parts themed very nicely. I had the case powder coated. I painted the plastic parts to match the coolant.
Did you powder coat it?
Yeah, I did. I didn't powder coat it myself. I had it outsourced.
Oh, okay.
It's really cheap. One of the mistakes I did, though, was I had the case all screwed together when I dropped it off, and they just threw that in the oven and powder coated it, and when I got it, I couldn't get the side panels off because it was baked together.
Yeah.
So I had to actually get a flathead and a hammer and just kind of go at it, and then I fixed it up later.
Chisel it.
Yeah, but that was a learning mistake.
I've been thinking about getting into powder coating, just doing it myself though, getting all the materials and everything myself.
Yeah, that could be cool. You would need you just get a Craigslist oven or something like that.
Yeah, something cheap.
Yeah.
Doesn't really need to be anything crazy.
The thing is, it's super cheap and fast as is. I think I did 2 cases. I did one in green and one in white, and the total bill was $65 to do both of them.
Wow.
And I had it in a couple days.
And that stays, the benefit of powder coating over painting is that it's a much stronger finish, right?
Yeah, and it's hard to get wrong. It just do it gets a perfect finish, and it lasts forever.
Yeah, so you can't really scratch it or anything.
Yeah.
That's great. I end up scratching all of my cases accidentally. I try really hard not to. It's just inevitable.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate. Although that might just be just because I'm kind of still a noob.
No, it's everybody. I mean, that orange PC's been to QuakeCon and a bunch of other events, and it's got dings in it and whatnot. Sometimes I'll repaint the plastic bits just to give it a fresh new coat.
Yeah, but repainting things is never as good as the original coat.
Yeah, because now it's got some, dents in it and whatnot. Yeah. They're the right color, but yeah, not like the first time.
So I have this one other question for you related to your business. So if let's say somebody got a little bit of modding experience and wanted to start their own business, I know there's a lot of PC modding businesses out there like your own. Would you say that it's an oversaturated market at this point? Like you have to be in it already?
I don't think so. So when it comes to like DIY mod parts in general, I feel like it's really difficult to scale it to the point that we have. It's still a difficulty for me, just because the overhead to actually create these products at scale is a lot more difficult than you would think, like the machinery, the employees, the customer service, the website side of things. It no longer becomes just kind of like doing it as an artist. But for smaller people, as like some side change, it could be doable. But I think where it's headed right now, the best way to do it is if you can create like a large following and then use that as like your way of getting ad placements and driving traffic and selling merchandise. And you could even sell your own products at that point at a low scale, but charge more.
So you didn't do that. You started your YouTube channel after your business, right?
Yeah, I've barely just started it even now. Actually, I think it would be more fun if I had focused on a YouTube channel and just had like 100,000 subscribers, and then that's all I did was mod all day. But instead, I'm running a business, so it's a lot different than before. In terms of, I've actually seen one guy who makes these one-off like custom backplates that are not scalable at all. They're not meant to be. They're all made of like hand crafted metal with LEDs and custom bits, and it's painted. And he charges like $150 for a backplate, and he spends half a day making it, and that's good for him. It's not a scalable solution, but it's just a good way of.
It's a good hobby.
Yeah, it's limiting the amount of orders you do, and as well as making some money on it. And you can actually use that for content. So if you need an excuse to do both, that could be a good fill. But for sponsored projects like trade show computers, I actually got approached for every single one that I've done. I've never like reached out like, hey, you guys doing a sponsored build? Could I build a build for your booth and then charge you for it? Like that's never been an approach that's worked for me. But through content, you can get a lot of companies to reach out, and whether they want you to participate in competitions that pay based off the winnings, or just to participate.
And would these companies sponsor your parts and everything? Because if you had to, right? Because that's the problem. If you had to buy your own parts and then you don't win, like you didn't get paid at all. You lost money.
And you could even take those parts and sell them after you've delivered what you promised. So let's say it's a build, you finish that build, you document it, you give them the creative to then post it on their social media. They've gotten their money's worth at that point. You can then strip it down or sell the whole project, and that could be some good money as well. From winning competitions, you get free stuff. Sometimes you get featured in magazines, and they'll pay you to be on that page. There's a lot of interesting ways of monetizing your modding hobby.
So I've got, I wouldn't say a big channel. I'm a little bit around 13,000 subscribers or something like that.
That's pretty good.
I have
especially
not
for the modding.
Yeah, I mean, I've not been like asked to do any sponsored mods or anything like that for any competitions or booths or anything like that. So how would somebody go about like minus the YouTube channel? How would somebody go about being approached by one of these guys if they didn't have this?
The way I've been approached is I've just been attending these events and trade shows, so I get a face-to-face interaction. They'll drop their card by, and I'll give them mine, etc. So you would say going to these places physically, like conventions and everything, is the best way to do it? Yeah, luckily for me, I'm in Dallas, so QuakeCon, one of the biggest lands of the year, was local. And when I took that first water-cooled build that I took, I got second place in the modding contest. I had a couple of sponsors just literally right there on the spot drop off free hardware and their cards. And the next thing I knew, I was doing a mod for PAX Prime a couple months later.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then I know another really good way is like some of the bigger forums. Build logs are a really long form creative that they like because it's something that they could point their users to. It keeps them on their website, and it has a lot of in detail. If people are going to check out long form content, they're probably pretty engaging and spending type of person. So that's one place they like to scout for projects.
That's cool. I've actually just started doing mod logs on places like Dietec.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, win a couple of those and you'll have somebody knocking on your door for sure.
Cool. I've not like when I first started this, I didn't know anything about anything with the modding like community. I was just kind of doing it by myself just because I thought it was fun. So it's kind of interesting to like finally learn.
At this point, there's a lot of the trade show companies at this point for trade show events have pretty much their go-to modders. So it's also kind of hard to break into for events unless like they need to find somebody and you're a convenient source for that. So that's just kind of a long-term kind of relationship type establishment that you got to set. But in terms of free parts and sponsored creative work, I think growing your influence, that's kind of and doing forums, winning stuff. That's the right way to go.
So where do you think you're taking your YouTube channel? What are your plans for that?
So I'm trying to create more things to bring influence to my company and my brand. So I'm probably going to be showing how to incorporate our off-the-shelf products into builds for first-time builders, as well as also from the professional modder standpoint, I'm going to do my own really high-end custom one-off projects that I just like to do for fun, and also I could share some information and do that. So I think I'm going to try to do some more simpler projects more often, as well as some really intense projects that I might do once a month or something like that. But we'll see.
I'm all about that intense stuff.
Yeah, I know. That's the fun stuff.
Yeah. I think about doing simpler things on my channel, but like there's only so many times you can show making a backplate, It's like I've already done that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess with the backlighting and everything, that's kind of a new thing that I've been playing with, and I'm still not great at it. I do have the technique, like I do know how to do it, but there's still some room for improvement there.
Yeah, side emitting LEDs need to become more of a mainstream product because those things are difficult to get. They're expensive.
Yeah.
They don't come in RGB as far as I know, but they would be perfect for lighting stuff.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I get all my LEDs from like China.
Yeah.
It takes a really long time to get them.
Alibaba.
Yep, exactly. And it's really cheap. So if anyone's listening to this, trying to get some bulk orders of that stuff, definitely get them from China.
Yeah, you could get like a 50 meter or some ridiculous like long strip with a remote and Molex for I want to say $5 or $6.
Mm-hmm. I spent like $100 on. I just had a budget of like $100. Okay, I want to spend this on lights or whatever. I got so much stuff. I'm not gonna need to buy another anything forever.
Yeah, I have a whole drawer full of those kits, those RGB kits.
Yeah, the RGB kits. Actually, if you're just like trying to get like one for your build, like if you're not trying to do what I do, I mean Amazon's fine too.
Yeah, I agree. It's much more convenient.
Yeah, the 2-day shipping.
Yeah. We might throw some of those kits on our store, who knows.
What, you have an Amazon store?
No, on the V1tech store.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, like LED kits?
Yeah.
With we'll controllers and
couple bucks more just so it cover our employee handling.
I would buy those. You have one customer right here. So I actually am curious. There was this one fella who commented on one of my videos, and he was like, "Oh, this V1tech dude, the backplates are too expensive. How do you price your stuff?"
I get that a lot. The thing is, people don't understand that it's not just like it's not some plastic material. It's the overhead of the laser. It's the artist's salary. It's the lease. It's the customer service. It's the front end development. We built a really insane configurator that allows you to really customize any design to a bunch of colors on the website, and it's just made it easy for anyone to get into it. In terms of pricing, like if you look at a water cooling fitting, for example, you spend $15 on mass-produced. thing that's made in China out of
Fittings
brass.
Fittings are dumb.
And we're selling a custom art piece. So I don't think the price is really the issue, especially as like a backplate. If you look at backplates on the market, one of the reasons why I wanted to bring ours to market was the only thing I could find was like plain black, sometimes white, and they're around the same price, and those are mass produced, not custom.
Yeah. No, I agree. You have definitely employees to pay and everything.
And we've been selling them like crazy, so I don't think the price is really an issue. It's just some people like to complain no matter what.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I get some people. I mean, I have like this thing about the music on my videos. I don't love a lot of the free music that's out there, even though I use it like the EDM and that kind of thing. I've used that stuff in some of my earlier videos just because that's the most common non-copyright music out there. I don't really like listen to that stuff just personally, like on my own time when I'm running or whatever.
It's funny. I actually really enjoy that music.
I like some of it, but I do like the more like alternative kind of stuff better. Like I've actually found this one band, Rising Appalachia. I emailed them and was like, "Hey, can I use your music?" And they said yes, and I'm a huge fan of them, so I'm really happy about that. Can't use them in every video just because that's repetitive, but I need to find more stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just really hard.
Yeah. There's a lot of, it's easier than it ever has been, at least.
Yeah, I guess. Well, with the internet, a lot of small artists too, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, exposure. That's cool."
Yeah, there's a lot of YouTube channels now popping up that are just dedicated to non-copyright music, and there's some really good stuff that's coming out of those. And
I'll
also
have to check that out.
YouTube is getting better at offering that stuff, and I think there's even some services that you can pay for that are just like you can type in whatever theme or mood you're looking for, and it'll give you a bunch of really good suggestions that they then pay the artists to be on their service. It's like a one-time monthly thing. I don't know what they are on top of my head, but I know they're out there.
That would be useful for me. I should research that a little bit. So anyway, I have another question for you. So I've been doing this, like I said at the beginning of this, for 1 year now. How would you say I'm doing for like 1 year in? Like how were you doing 1 year in compared to how I'm doing 1 year in?
Oh, that's tough. If I was gonna say, I don't. 1 year. When did you start building your first computers? Was this like straight into building computers as modding, or did that come a little bit later?
Well, all right. So I built a computer, and then I was just like, "Oh, that was kind of fun," so I decided to mod it. So I built my first computer, and then I started the channel after I had already built it. But I was like watching YouTube videos for like years before that. Like I was into the tech channels and everything.
Yeah, so the first year I started, I was like a freshman in high school. I built my first computer, and then I did that. That was that CM690 mod that eventually became that Scout 1. And I didn't actually mod it until after I graduated. I was in college at that point. So in terms of first year, I think you're doing a lot better than I was.
Oh, that's encouraging.
Yeah. I don't think I even got into any type of modding for at least a year.
My ego.
I think you're experimenting with a lot more stuff than I got the opportunity to. I saw you working with like modeling and I'm not sure, was it airbrushing a little bit?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah,
modeling was cool. I have an airbrush and I use it as more like an air compressor at this point. Like I use it to spray air at like my drying paint so that it dries faster and that stuff. But I tried the airbrushing and I just totally sucked at it, so I kind of got discouraged.
Yeah, just gotta keep trying, I guess.
Yeah, I'm planning on doing some of that this second year, airbrushing. There's a lot of stuff that I want to do that I just haven't had the chance to do, what with budget or just like being busy in real life or whatever. Yeah, there's like cable sleeving is obviously a big one. Like I kind of suck at that. Actually, I'm really appreciative of you sponsoring my cable sleeving, just because like, man, I tried it and it took me hours and it didn't look that great. So it's just like
the main reason we started carrying sleeving in the first place was just because I didn't want to have to do it myself, and if we sold the product, like then I just have access to it all the time. So I'm glad I was able to help you with those. But sleeving is just, and it's a lot of modders' biggest pain point, and that's kind of why it's not just a saturated market, but it doesn't matter how saturated it gets, it's always going to be in demand.
Yeah. Even if you can sleeve, like I watched a bunch of
Yeah.
YouTube videos on like how to do it, and then I tried it myself, and it's just like I cannot make it look good.
Yeah, Trevor here can actually, like, he's gone through it and learned how to sleeve the OEM replacements to be like perfect length. Blake Andez used to help us with getting the curvature on each wire to be perfect to, lay a certain way. And that's great for if we want to do like an immaculate one-off perfect build. But it's really hard to do all the time because it's just an insane amount of labor just for cables.
Yeah, you wouldn't do that unless you were like doing a competition or something.
Right. Yeah. Trying to stand out.
Yeah. So what do you think? You've been to a lot of competitions at this point, more than me. I've never actually been to one. I kind of want to, but so what do you think is like the baseline, like the average competition mod that you see out there? Like, what's the kind of competition that I should be looking to beat?
I would go to a DreamHack or if you go to PDX Land is pretty awesome.
Okay,
if you go to
that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean. I mean like the average computer that you see at these competitions. How modded is it? Like how advanced are the mods that you would have to go about beating?
It depends on the event. So if it's like a small LAN fest by Intel, it's probably going to be not much competition. If you go to a DreamHack, you might have a couple guys who do something pretty awesome, and
obviously Computex is like the biggest one.
Computex is insane. I don't know if Computex is a LAN event per se, but they do have a lot of professionally modded computers everywhere.
Yeah.
QuakeCon has a really good competition every year by Modders Inc. They're also doing a separate mod competition now, I think, just for pro modders. So they're actually separating a little bit away from new people, just because it seems to be the really long-term pros keep showing up and winning every single time.
Yeah, they're in a league of their own.
Yeah, and PDX Line is also one of the most, like, if you go there, it's a lot smaller than DreamHack or QuakeCon, but there's more like professional modders per like square inch than any of the other mods LAN events.
That's cool.
Yeah, and their competition is, I think they always have like 5 placements just because they need a couple more. that one's a pretty awesome line to go to.
I want to get into that kind of stuff.
Yeah, now it's getting more online. I know Cooler Master does one every year, and the bar has been raised over and over in those, and I think Thermaltake and MSI have been doing some. So you just got to kind of look out for them. They pop up all the time. I know like Bittech does one every month.
Yeah.
CPU Magazine has a Mad Reader submission once a month that a bunch of people submit their mods to, and one gets chosen to be on the cover. I believe you do get paid for that. I think OC3D is a good one. They host competitions there as well. But just keep an eye out for these.
Is there any that, let's say, people listening to this, obviously they're interested in modding, but they're probably not professionals. There are not that many professionals out there, but what do you think somebody that doesn't have a whole lot of experience could enter and then not have to worry about, could enter and potentially win, I
don't think you should show up to try to win the contest. I think you should just try to put in all your efforts into making the best computer you possibly can, and then seeing how people react to it and what happens. When I built the first, PC that got second place, I was trying to have the coolest computer in the room per se, and I just wanted to make it as awesome as possible. And I took it, and it was my first, rigid tube build water cooled loop. And it turns out that nobody else in that entire LAN, 3,000 people, had a rigid tube build.
Oh.
So I was able to stand out, and I was able to. They told me to enter the mod contest, and I got second place, and that's kind of been a pivotal point in my modding career. So I think it's more like you should focus on the strategy of just bettering your modding skills and your build, and then the rest should just kind of follow.
That makes perfect sense. Try to beat yourself, do better than you did before, kind of thing, and then eventually you'll do better than other people did.
Yeah, believe it or not, I've never won first place at QuakeCon. I've only gotten second a bunch of times, and yet, I love Modders Inc. and everything, but and they did an awesome job. But we did a Alienware mod contest against the judges that were for QuakeCon, and we got first place, and we really did something awesome to do that. But I kind of skipped that having to win first at a LAN center, just because I was focused on just trying to create something really cool, and a lot of people agreed and voted for it, and it went viral.
That's awesome. Yeah, competitions are like one of the bigger things that modders do, right? Like if you're trying to do this, obviously you.
Yeah, it's a fun aspect to it, and it's really subjective. Like, you could say, a lot of people will focus on too many different variables, but really you're presenting this to people. So people are going to have different interests and different, they're going to be subject to different things. So if you could appeal to a larger demographic, or say the modders just simply see more effort put into the mod, or it's just a color combination that you went with, or how you did certain things to create a perfect balance and aesthetic. There's a lot of things that, not just skills required, but I guess some talent and an eye for the mod to help you create something that is really unique. I like to say there's like these special mods, and there's like the standard, like the standard must-haves you have to have, like good cable sleeving management and stuff like that. It has to be water cooled. It's got to have good lighting. But the unique stuff is like you see a water channel PCU cover reservoir, or a monitor built into the side panel, or
yeah. So you would say that the water cooling, custom water cooling, is at this point it's like
a standard
requirement.
Yeah, like if you don't have a backplate on a graphics card, whether you get it from V1tech or you do it yourself, there's some points that are going to get taken off. Like that's a default thing now at this stage for having something that high end. I think the more unique, like things that aren't really seen very often in your build that tie together very well, the better of a mod it is. So there's a lot of people who will not just take inspiration from the PC modding industry, but they'll go out and look at like how jewelry is made, or how glass blowing type stuff, maybe neon signs, and they'll go and they'll take that and incorporate it in a PC build that's something like you've never seen before. And that's really what I think brings in the first place winners, and then the next modders that get a chance at doing something
right.
Be awesome.
Yeah, glass blowing, that would be insane. Yeah, I try to do some of that with clay. I don't really see a whole lot of clay things in PC mods. There are a couple, and they look really good, but that's one thing that's pretty easy to do that it's not really common.
Yeah, you just have to be creative. And the more creative aspects that go into one build, the better.
Mm-hmm. So
I've seen somebody, for example, instead of doing like just sleeved wires, they used rigid copper wiring, and then they bent it all the way to the PSU.
Oh, I've seen that.
Each one. Yeah, they painted each one with the Plasti Dip. And I've seen, like, I don't know, I'm trying to give like good examples, like BS mods. They've taken their sleeving, instead of like sleeving the wires, they just completely shroud it in like metal tubing of some sort to make it look like it's just part of this industrial thing.
Like the wires are shrouded?
Yeah, I think they've even painted their wires before, like make them look dirty and stuff for certain types of aesthetics.
I was a electrician for a while, and obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but electricians often work with like EMT tubing to run wires through.
Yeah, and I think that's what it was.
I actually have been thinking about doing that, like bending tubes, hard tubes, maybe even just using the PETG tubes and just like bending them and running wires through them instead of water.
Yeah, when acrylic tubing was more popular, I actually put a tube in a rotary engraver on our laser and engraved like a really crazy design into it. It was like the Dietec language from Elder Scrolls Online.
Sick.
And we were able to bend that. And I used clear coolant and white LEDs, and those engravings like caught the light. That was pretty cool, but you can't really engrave PETG the same way. So if we were gonna, bring that, I don't know if people would be all over that, but it'd be even more impressive if you did that same concept, but on say glass or.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever seen those cars that they go in and they hand engrave those like flower designs, or those guns where they do that like out of gold and stuff like that?
No. I'm not really a car guy.
No worries. I just think like that on like tubing would be insane. I have to send you some photos of what I'm talking about. But it's just you got to think outside the box in terms of making something that's going to stand out and be unique and one-off. And I think if you strive for looking for things to do like that, you'll have a lot of success in virality. And
So like look outside the PC modding world, basically.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing to look back and try to incorporate some of the things that other people have done, or try to reverse engineer that thing to learn. But you should take your skills and use the stuff that you find to try to create something new. And I think that's how you create value. Cool.
So I am curious about your business. That's kind of like you're like a professional, right? And there's not often that you get to like talk to a professional modder. So like
you're a professional at this point too. I don't think.
No. I don't make money though. That's the difference.
Okay.
I'm a hobbyist still at this point, but
Peter Brands has never done it for money, and yet he's been all over the internet. Millions of retweets on 9gag. So he chooses to be a hobbyist. That doesn't mean you're not a pro.
I guess you could be a hobbyist that is just as good as a pro.
Yeah, I think you go pro as soon as it stops being when you start entering that top 20% of PC builders that aren't building like everybody else. Like if you look at 80% of the computers built in the world today, I think yours would fit in that top 20%.
I don't know if I'm there yet.
You'd be surprised. I want to say a couple mods happen every month, but hundreds of builds happen every day. So yours stand out for a reason.
Well, I'm flattered. And now you got me forgetting the questions I was going to ask you.
Sorry.
Yeah, got me all blushing over here.
Anything to do with the company, maybe? One of the things we're trying to do is not just streamline the production line of being able to produce these incredibly quick for the masses, but we're also trying to incrementally increase the quality of what we can do. I think we were talking about this the other day, of just trying to push the envelope in terms of what we could bring to the masses. One of the cool products that I still need to get you to do a build in is the new case that we developed.
Oh yeah, that would be sick.
Yeah. The dopamine case. It's a fully enthusiast water cooling case. The thing is crazy. It can hold two 360 millirads and a 480.
If only I had that kind of equipment.
It's a lot of water cooling. It's definitely not for the first time builder, but it can be. There's no reason it couldn't be, but it's definitely an enthusiast chassis.
Yeah, you might not fill it up if you're a first timer.
Yeah, if you put a mini ITX motherboard in like an SFX power supply, I would not recommend that case. It's huge.
Yeah,
it's like a 900D almost, but all metal construction, all screws together. There's no plastic bits in it. It's really high quality.
That's awesome.
And it's a low production run, so it's a very unique case.
And you make that with CNC machines? Do you outsource that?
We do all our prototyping in house on CNC and a bender, but it's all made in overseas, Taiwan and China.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's I believe laser cut. It's either laser cut or stamped, and in large batches.
It's pretty difficult to laser cut metal, so they must have some crazy stuff over there.
It's actually the laser cutters that can do metal can cut metal faster than any plastic laser cutter. And the reason for that is the heat tolerance. But those things are several millions of dollars, and they operate insanely quick. And they're really just for big factory type stuff. So it's hard to find one local. But that also means that the quality of the production, believe it or not, could actually be higher in certain places over there. And that's something we really look out for when we're quality testing. We get prototypes, make sure it matches what we're doing in-house, and it looks like as if it's one-off made here.
That's cool.
Yeah, and everything we're doing in the case is all flat assembled, so you can get it right out of the package and paint it if you want, or send it to powder coating for a different color, making it really easy for modders and enthusiasts to kind of go ham.
So you have cases, you have acrylic mods like backplates, fan grills, obviously the sleeve cables. What are you thinking about adding to your store in the future? Or is that like confidential?
So no, it's not. We're looking at getting into doing like custom mod parts for certain cases. So some of the top selling cases, we want to actually go in there and get really detailed in terms of, let's say like a hard drive cage cover and a front and top panel, maybe even side panel covers, just to be able to create the full themed project for newcomers. That way they can go in and customize a computer to almost look like as if a professional modder did it from the ground up, like I would, right out of the box. And it would all be really easy to install using either adhesive-backed or magnetic attaching solutions. It would all come flat packed, so you don't have to ship your case out to get it painted or anything like that. Just
and would this be like
solution.
with the logistics of the? Can you do this right now? Like if you had the infrastructure, like on your website, the configurator or whatever, do you have the machinery to be able to support this kind of thing right now?
Yeah. The only reason why we can't, we're not taking orders or one-off requests is just because the way we set up our website is the configurators and everything talk to the equipment that we have. So when you select a design and a color, for example, we'll use dimensional data to then create that design so it's ready to print. And there's no prototyping or experimenting or emailing involved. It's just a turnkey, very fast solution. And as long as we can implement it very well, then we can serve a lot more people at a much faster turnaround time. So when you're dealing with like me as a one-off artist, even with my equipment, if I wanted to go in and create something just for you, it's going to take me probably, an hour prototyping, an hour to make it, and then,
right. So the custom, if you were going to do anything custom, like somebody could send in their own design or whatever, then that would obviously take a lot more time.
Correct. So we might have a something coming to the site soon where you have to upload a vector-based graphic, and if there's any pieces that would fall out in laser cutting, we would connect them. But it's not really a fully custom request where you can have like a full high-res graphic with your gamer tag and all that kind of stuff. But if you sent us like your gamer tag in a font that would work, we could then do that. We need to create really strong, good guidelines to be able to accept those kind of things, which we're working on.
So it's really difficult to do custom stuff, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and then we're also going to be expanding our designs on our website to cover a lot more ground in terms of relatability and uniqueness. So definitely send us some suggestions on social media for what you'd like to see. We've been getting like car brand suggestions and like luxury stuff, as well as like anime and all that jazz. And we're kind of just experimenting to see what we can get and put up on our site.
That's sick. Yeah, I'm a big fan of your website. I know there's a lot of other modding websites out there, but I haven't seen any that do as much stuff as yours does.
I appreciate that. We're definitely trying to push the envelope past like customizability of just like RGB lights and cable accessories. I think to really express yourself as a builder, it takes a lot more than that.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you wanted to completely modify your computer, you could do it just based on the stuff you get from your website, which is like awesome. Like you don't have to be a PC modder at all to have a modded PC. And
it's funny because also the detail we're able to get with our laser equipment allows us to even make stuff that could be higher quality than what a one-off artist could do. We actually had a few professional modders incorporate like our backplate and fan grills into their mods, and we've had a few actually win first place mod contest using our products. So it's kind of like it shows the
well, obviously laser cutting is a whole another level above like cutting something out with a saw of some kind. Yeah, just wait.
Yeah, the edge finish and the detail.
Yeah,
it's just not the same. And the equipment we use is not just like hobby equipment. It's designed to be for production. It's the fastest, the most reliable, the easiest to maintain equipment. It's not cheap.
Yeah, and earlier we were talking about prices. Like it takes me like half a day to make a backplate. Like I have to, depending on like obviously the quality of like the cuts or the details or whatever. But like I would totally drop $40 or whatever and just like skip half a day of time. I mean, I have a job.
Yeah, and that's the case for not just pro modders, but for everyone.
Yeah.
So if we can save you time, that's a huge asset, and that's where the price, like, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So I personally don't see your stuff as being expensive at all compared to like. I mean, we're PC guys. We want our stuff to look cool, so yeah, I can get my stuff to look way cooler with a laser cut backplate than if I didn't have experience and tried to do it myself with like a jigsaw or something.
Yeah, going back to the sleeving, where we started carrying custom sleeving not just because I wanted to use them in my builds, and I don't have that kind of time to do my own sleeving. And it's kind of the same thing with my products. Like, if I could create products that I would use in my own builds, then that would be, great. I kind of looked at what am I, like when I started my business, I was looking at what would I buy if it was on the market that I would like to use in my projects.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the perfect way to do it. That's kind of how I did YouTube as well. Like, what do I want to see from other people? And that's kind of what I do, make videos about.
Perfect.
Yeah. So I know exactly what you're saying with that.
Yeah, it's like Tim Ferriss said when he wrote the book, The 4-Hour Workweek, was he wrote that book for one friend. He said if it didn't do any success at all and it just worked for just one friend, it was a good book to write. And that, became a New York bestseller, and, it's gone crazy. So it's kind of like the same concept. You just have to do things that you believe in, and 9 times out of 10, or even if not, at least you're one step closer to figuring out, how to create value. Again, doing new things that no one's done before, that is how you create value. And that's something we definitely look at when we're creating our products.
Yeah.
Yeah, how did you get into modding?
How did I get into modding?
Like, why? Were you just... Like I said, for me, it was I got into building computers for just the tech side of things and gaming, and then I enjoyed the process, and I wanted to make my own computer look pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Was it different for you? Or
well, I built my own computer, and I just started with like learning how to do that, obviously just like on Reddit and PC Part Picker and whatever. Watching a lot of YouTube videos was a big part of that. And then I was just like, I built it, and I was like, wow, that was kind of fun, and I can't build another one. I don't have any friends that want a computer. I don't want to spend another $1,000 or whatever. So I was just like, well, maybe modding. I could do some modding, and that would extend the build process a little bit, and it was kind of fun. So I started doing that, and at that point, before I even like built a computer, I'd been watching a lot of YouTube videos about PC modding, and I was just like, oh, maybe I could do that. So I did.
That's awesome.
That's pretty much how it worked. I didn't I didn't really expect it to go anywhere, to be honest. I was just like, oh, this is fun. That's pretty much it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you need to bring, we need to meet sometime at a mod event where you bring a PC. Maybe we'll make some videos together actually doing some modding, not just a podcast. But we'll see.
Well, that would be sick. I don't know how you would go about bringing like modding stuff.
No idea.
Modding stuff to a convention or whatever, but I guess people do it.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to collaborate somehow.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
So what was the what was kind of your progression in terms of modding tools?
Oh, that is a good question. So
we said we both got in with a Dremel, but then what next?
So yeah, I started with the Dremel. Obviously, that's the biggest, like, if I was going to suggest a tool for somebody to get if they're trying to get into modding for the first time, a Dremel. That's what you get. It's cheap, and then, like, you can do so much stuff. Like, actually, I get a lot of my Dremel accessories from China as well, so it's, like, really cheap. I know a lot of the metal cutting wheels can end up breaking very quickly. Yeah. So if you just get, like, 50 of them from China for, like, $5 or whatever, then you don't really have to worry about that. But, yeah, so I got the Dremel, and I got a scroll saw, the little one it's actually also a Dremel scroll saw, but...
Yeah, it's a very popular one.
Yeah, I use that in, like, every single mod ever. I use the jigsaw a lot less, but I still use it. And then, obviously, paint cans are a huge tool that, obviously, my very first mod, and then every single mod after that has been painted. So that's a big one.
Yeah. I think I'm on a similar path to that, but I didn't get the Dremel bandsaw. I kind of wish I did. I actually ended up getting like really. The second tool I got was a jigsaw, and for creating like windows and straight lines and stuff like that that are longer, I felt that saved a lot of time. But I think after that I got a drill press. And a drill.
Oh, drill press, that's a good idea. Actually, my dad has one of those. I might just steal it.
Yeah, they're just super handy. I had a hole saw at one point, a 120 millimeter hole saw.
Yeah.
That I stuck on a drill, and I actually that was probably how I got my first injury. I was drilling a hole through acrylic on the ground. I didn't have it clamped to a table or anything like that. I was in shorts, and it caught and bounced to the right and hit my knee and just gave me like a little deep cut. And
power tools.
That was a lesson learned. Yeah, definitely be safe when experimenting with new tools and trying to do new stuff. It's not fun to.
Stuff's dangerous. Yeah.
And get stitches or anything.
My very first modding injury was with scissors. I was cutting something and my finger was just in the way and I was trying to like press down really hard to cut the thing and I just cut my finger. And it was actually like, it doesn't sound too bad, but it was actually pretty deep. It bled a lot.
That's horrible.
I don't think that's the only modding injury I've ever had.
Yeah, I think the more you get injured, the more cautious you get.
That's true. Yeah, I'm definitely not going to put my finger in front of some scissors ever again.
I'm trying to think. I don't think I've had any other injuries, anything major. In terms of like soldering and whatnot, it's definitely, and painting, definitely
soldering.
Wear a mask. Yeah, soldering.
Soldering.
I just... You got me.
Yeah. I always say that in my head, but like people just call you out too much on the internet. So
on YouTube.
Yeah.
that's something I need to start doing so that I can get better at communicating some of this stuff.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see some YouTube videos of yours. Like your channel's not super active right now, but I mean, mine isn't either. I just have so much stuff to do in real life. But
well, you're at least doing once a week, I think. Which I need to at least get there.
A little more than that. I think I'm doing like a week and a half, 2 weeks kind of thing at this point. Just because, when I was an electrician, actually I was an electrician until about two or 3 weeks ago, and then I switched into IT. I'm doing IT now.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I was doing, thanks. Yeah, it's a lot better. So when I was an electrician, though, I had to go to school twice a week, and that took up a lot of my time, and I just didn't have as much time to mod. But now I think I do. Now I'll have like every single night to go and do some random stuff. Maybe I will be able to do one a week.
And I'm sure the guys at your work love seeing what you do.
Oh, I don't think any of them know. Not that
really?
Yeah, I mean, I've showed them my Instagram and everything. Like, hey, check this out. I built a cool computer.
I used to work as a repair at Micro Center for part-time while I was in college. And they would always love seeing the mods that I would do.
I think the Instagram of my modding channel, I think that actually helped me get a job. The current job that I'm at, they were super impressed with that. I showed them and they were like, "Oh man, you're obviously super like, I don't know."
Funny story, how I got the job at Micro Center. I actually had applied, I called, they scheduled an interview like the next day. I walked in and they had a CP magazine had a feature where I was in. I grabbed it and I went on the way inside to the interview and I pretty much got hired an hour later.
That's awesome.
So that was really convenient.
Yeah, if you show that you're like passionate about this tech stuff, like if you have like a modded computer or something, people are really impressed by that. Even if you're not like a professional, like, or have a YouTube channel or an Instagram or whatever, no competitions. If you have a computer that looks awesome and you just like show somebody, they'll be super impressed. Say you built it yourself, obviously.
Nothing's more attractive to people than being willing to learn new things and then showing how to put that in action.
Yeah, so if you can, proving that you know what you're talking about. If you built your own computer and then you go above and beyond that and show that you like know the parts well enough to be able to tell like, oh, I painted my motherboard, like that. You have to know what you're doing to do that. You have to know what not to paint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like Plastidip's the best bet. I know there's like some thermal stuff to avoid, and yeah.
What I basically
the research you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do that much research. When I painted
research is doing it and finding out after.
Yeah, that was kind of what my idea was like. Okay, this paint is non-conductive, and obviously the parts underneath the heat sinks need to not be painted because they need to come in contact with the heat sink. And so it was just like deductive reasoning, and I was just like, okay, this should work. And
it's like that didn't break. This is why.
Yeah. So, and then obviously don't paint in any of the connection points. But yeah, it worked. Like I've painted 2 at this point, 2 motherboards, and they both work perfectly, and there's no temperature increases or anything.
Yeah.
And I don't use Plastidip. I use Rust-Oleum to paint the PCB.
Yeah, it's been done a long time ago, and I think the hardware is now just getting more and more durable to any of this kind of stuff, and things are getting more efficient to the point where heat is almost a non-issue in any scenario. Like
That's true. Like heat
people,
sinks on RAM, totally unnecessary.
yeah, one of the things like people ask all the time is like, do your backplates add any structural rigidity or cooling compared to like screw-on metal backplates? And there's been testing by Linus Tech Tips and Gamer Nexus showing that nowadays both those things are irrelevant. So when designing our backplates, we really went for ease of installation and aesthetics. That's the main focus. For support, we went for our GPU support brackets that match, and that's kind of like the perfect combination. But when it comes to cooling, like there's no difference.
Especially if it's water cooled.
I mean, yeah, but the PCB on the back, like unless you're doing liquid nitrogen overclocking and going really, really high end, trying to tweak those RAM to be just ridiculous, you'll never, even with standard water cooling overclocking, experience any increases in temperature really on the back of your PCB.
Right.
Nowadays, anyway. It was different, like with GTX 680s or before. They knocked a few degrees down just from having a metal backplate. It was a different, case a couple years ago.
Yeah, it's all so efficient now. I get a lot of people on my comment sections. I read every single comment ever, and I usually try to reply to as many as I can. Yeah, but like a couple people are like, will this? I mean, they don't ask the question. Like a lot of people will ask the question, and I'll respond like, no, it doesn't matter. It's negligible. But a lot of people are like, oh, this is bad. This is gonna like ruin your parts or whatever. And I don't know. There's that misconception out there still.
Yeah, it's definitely like a natural fear.
I mean, it is sketchy. Like painting your motherboard, for example, like that's sketchy. But it does work, and it doesn't hurt anything.
Right.
And then backplates, obviously, a lot less sketchy just because they're removable. But yeah, totally not an issue.
Yeah, I remember at the Intel Rig Wars, I actually didn't have. So everybody got a metal chrome like finished backplate to use in their builds, and I didn't have one. So I ended up like taking and it was all water cooled. So I took the cooler off the I think it was a 1070 or 970, and I dremeled the heck out of that and made the cooler into this like crazy looking backplate. And I used just non-conductive double-sided adhesive to mount it to the PCB, and the metal wasn't touching anything. It looked awesome. Didn't affect anything.
Dude.
And I definitely got some brownie points.
You know what I just thought up?
What?
If I ever have to do a competition, well, I hope that eventually I'll do competitions, but when I eventually get like a sponsored GPU or something, I'm totally going to paint the PCB instead of making a backplate.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Actually, I actually like the, so before backplates were a bigger deal when PCBs weren't all black, but in terms of like motherboards, I actually prefer like an all black PCB motherboard with some lighting on it versus like a shroud to completely cover it, because it still makes it feel like a computer.
Cool. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not just, a bunch of covers and components. There's actually some tech in there.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I'm looking at mine right now, and it's like I don't see anything on there that shouldn't be painted. Obviously, other than the connectors.
Yeah, I wonder if you could paint like a graphics right onto your PCB. That'd be interesting.
Well, you could. You would need some kind of stencil. Obviously, not vinyl or anything. You'd have to use like cardboard and cut out some cardboard and put it on there or something.
Yeah, because the edges are going to be the most difficult. You can't just.
Well, the edges won't be perfect, inevitably.
Yeah, maybe with airbrushing you could do some details.
Oh, that's
stuff.
true. Yeah, that's a good idea.
What are some new things that you learned incrementally throughout like each project you did? Was there stuff that you obviously like the painting and whatnot? You probably reused some of those skills and tools over and over, but what were the most common like new things that you had to really learn in each project?
So, painting is actually a huge one that, like you said, you get way better at painting the more you do it. Like I sucked at painting first. All my paint jobs on my earlier mods were just terrible. Like I did like one coat, like one thick coat on all of my things. Like I would try to do more than one coat, but the problem was I didn't wait for it to fully dry before I put on my second coat, my third coat. Like I would just put it on and then wait like a minute and then put on another coat. Like that's not how you do that. And I wasn't super aware of the best way to go about this until a lot later. So that's one thing that I definitely had to learn from messing up a lot. And now my paint jobs are actually good. Like I do like four coats of paint, and I wait for it to dry before like each coat and everything. Actually, that compressor that I have helps me out a lot with spraying air at it so it dries faster. But yeah, that's one of the things I had to learn the hard way, I guess.
Yeah, I think the Fallout mod is still one of my favorites, even though it was like maybe your second or.
Yeah, it's one of the earlier ones. I love Fallout, so I'm glad to hear you say that. And the guy, I talked to the guy whose computer it is now, and he really loves it. So I'm really happy to hear that.
And the big flower that you did on the 780T on that build, that was pretty creative and impressive.
Oh, thanks.
I really liked that.
Yeah, I was trying to do something different.
And those are all hand-cut pieces, too.
Yeah, exactly. So attaching your acrylic with some kind of tape or epoxy or something like that, obviously easy to do, but I was trying to do something different with all the screws, and it worked out.
I'm not gonna lie, at one point I've adhesive stuck something down and then took the head off a screw and glued it to the top just so it looked more industrial and that it was attached.
That's a good idea, actually.
So that's pretty impressive that every single one of those is screwed on. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to do more stuff like that. Obviously, better though. I feel like I'm a much better modder now. I feel like if I was gonna start a YouTube channel, like now would be the time where I would do it, where I'd feel confident, like, oh, I'm good at modding now. I could start showing off. I promise
you, that doesn't end. Every single year, you're gonna feel like you're just getting started.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, I'm glad that I did start while I was still bad at it, because now people can like look at my channel, and I'm gonna keep all this stuff up forever. So people can look at my channel in 3 years and go back like 4 years ago and look at my very first mod that I've ever done, and then compare it to like what I'm doing in 3 years and be like, wow, this is crazy. You know, the difference here is madness. So hopefully people can, like, when they're first starting out with modding, they can kind of see like the progression, you know. This guy started out kind of bad, and then hopefully in 3 years they'll be like, oh, this guy's freaking awesome, but look what he was doing before. Like, I can do that stuff, and it'll be hopefully kind of encouraging for people.
I feel like the Stormtrooper fractal design case was like a step up in terms of what you could maybe. Well, I think it's actually. You could do something maybe a little bit better just using parts from our site, like off the shelf, but then you go to like the Fallout build and it's like a whole nother level. Like just from there, it's a huge progression.
Yeah, I think definitely your store would provide a better mod than the first mod that I did.
Yeah, but the V1tech, like immediately after, it just shows a huge level of improvement, and then the creativity of the flower and the hand cut stuff on the 780T. I'm going in progression on the Instagram page right now.
And that's all correct. I put it up in order.
The circuitry pattern on that motherboard. I honestly did not see that, and I don't think I've ever seen something like that before. That's pretty crazy.
Oh, I should do something better than that then. It wasn't perfect. Like it took me a long time, and the circuitry pattern is not. Like, if you really study it's not that great.
It's like a 5 foot mod. You know, it looks perfect from 5 feet.
Yeah, exactly.
That's usually good enough for the majority. And then I love what you started experimenting. It looks like you did a Rainbow Six Siege Xbox.
Oh, yeah.
You put a window in it. You lit the inside. You painted the case. You even added some custom acrylic that you hand cut and glued onto that window. Looks
I just had an Xbox laying around. I wanted to mod, but yeah, There's one thing with that as well that I wish I did differently. I wish I powered the LED strip from like some internal components on the Xbox, just so that it would turn on when the Xbox turns on. That's pretty much the only thing that I would have changed though.
You had it connected to the 5 volts, so even when it was off, it was still glowing, correct?
Right. Yeah. It plugged into a wall outlet.
Yeah. It's the same thing. Actually, some people for PC modding will do that on purpose on some stuff. Like they'll connect LEDs, certain LEDs, like let's say on the back of their computer to the 5 volt, so that way when it's off, they can still see where their USB ports and stuff are plugged in.
Oh yeah.
but then other lights they'll leave for, you know, just standard 12 volt, and it just turns on when the computer turns on.
Yeah, that's what I prefer, the computer controlled stuff. And actually with the Xbox, I'm planning on doing another Xbox mod. The Xbox One X just came out, and this is going to be kind of expensive. I do have almost enough money to fund like the Xbox itself, but then I have to buy like an SSD and like a power supply and all this other stuff. I want to water cool it, but it's the difference between like, do I want to spend all the money on custom water cooling? Do I want to use an AIO? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I would like to take the Xbox and put it in a PC case and power it with an ATX power supply, switch out the hard drive with an SSD, water cool it, you know, have it look like a PC, but it's just an Xbox.
Is it going to be both a PC and an Xbox in one, or just
No, just an Xbox.
Okay. Just an overkill Xbox.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even sure if that will increase the performance. I know the SSD swap does increase performance on your Xbox, but I'm not sure water cooling will do anything. It'll just look cool.
You should try to also, since you'll have the case, try to fit a higher end PC in the Xbox case.
Oh wow, yeah.
That would be cool.
That would be cool. Yeah, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah, that Corsair 400C, is it a 400C front panel mod? That's pretty sick.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. That was actually for one of my patrons. Looking back on it now, it does look cool. I'm not gonna say I wish, I don't know. I could have done a much better job on it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like now that I have more experience.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you had a laser cutter.
That's true.
You could do a lot more detail, but it's crazy that you could do that just by hand. Like it looks like almost as if it was off a laser, and it's probably more creative than some of the stuff that, you know, you just do on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to do, experiment a little more. I feel like a lot of times I'll watch YouTube videos, and there's a lot of other modders on YouTube that I watch, and they're just like, they do such awesome stuff, but I just see like a lot of the same type of mods. I just want to I want to branch out a little bit and try new stuff. Kind of like that engraving with a Dremel.
Yeah.
Especially things that like people can do themselves. If you can watch one of the time-lapse videos and get some techniques and then do that to your own computer, that's kind of what I want. So using a laser cutter, while it does look way better, it's not something that everyone has access to. So even when I do have a laser cutter, I might just use it for basic things.
Convenience more than
right. And then if I want to do some crazy stuff, I might still use the hand tools just so that people can copy me.
Yeah, that's one of the things, like when I'm trying to do my mods, if I'm using the laser cutter, I try to think of like what is not humanly possible without the laser cutter. That way I can actually have like an excuse to, you know, show off something that's never been done before using that equipment. But I think I've mentioned this before. The first Scout window that I did with the acrylic, I did that by hand, but I ended up at one point designing that in Adobe Illustrator and sending it out to a local trophy and engrave shop, and they charged me like $35. And I got it, you know, I went over there and picked it up like 30 minutes later, and it was exactly like my hand done one, just a lot faster. So if you want to experiment with design, I think that's more of a limiting factor than the equipment. There's actually a ton of services now coming out where you can upload your stuff and they'll cut it and ship it to you. And that's something we might do as well.
You should. The more stuff you offer, the better, really.
Yeah, I wanna be able to bridge that gap where it's not really the tools or the time that's the constraint on what you're able to produce in a build. But, you know, that'll get better over time.
So Hassan, this has been well over an hour at this point. So what are your social media accounts? What are your Instagram? Where should we find you?
Everything is V1tech. That's V as in Victor, the number 1, TECH. That's all over. That's on YouTube. On YouTube, I think you have to search it. The username is a little different, but Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, it's all just /V1tech. And of course, you can just go to V1tech.com and it's all there.
Right. Yeah, V1tech.com. Basically, that's you.
That's the home site.
And then I have everything as well. Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, obviously YouTube. So if you want to follow me on any of those, go ahead and do that.
You definitely should.
So yeah, all right. It was good talking to you. I will see you later.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me.